Hi, I went to my first European Quiz Championships in 2006. I was hungry to learn, so I asked Ian Bailey, one of the England quiz team, a future European champion and past British champion, what books I should get to become a better quizzer. He made me two recommendations. The first was Bamber Gascoigne's Encyclopedia of Britain. The second was Trevor Montague's A to Z of Almost Everything. Now, the world has changed since I bought that first copy of Trevor Montague's A to Z. Quizzing has changed. Does this book still have a place in a quizzer's library? So this is the 9th edition of Montague's magnum opus. There are 1,230 pages, lots of sections, as you would imagine, have been updated. Things have changed. It is already, of course, out of date because it was published shortly before the Queen died, so there is a new monarch that will be added in the 10th edition. A number of sections have been added since the last version of this book. Antelopes, video games, LPs, neologisms, and World Heritage sites. Publication was paused to allow for Liz Truss's cabinet to be recorded in here, and in fact, I don't know if you can see, I'll zoom in, Liz Truss is even on the cover. So with Wikipedia, is there a place for a book like this that tries to cover everything that you possibly could need to know? Well, looking at it with fresh eyes, the first time I've looked at this edition, it still looks like a book that really has its place. If you need to know what the most important things are in any given subject area, a look in this book will help you find out. And you know, you're not going to learn everything you need to learn, but it will point you in the right direction. Trevor says in his preface to this book that you need two things alongside this when you're reading it. One is a good atlas. Two is access to the internet. This is your starting point. It's not the be-all and end-all, but what a starting point. Now, it's very easy on a flick through to think that this is just a load of lists, and there are lists in there. A lot of lists, and if you're a list learner, woohoo, this is heaven. If you're not a list learner, view it this way. Somebody has gone through and given you the headlines of the stuff you need to know, and you can go on and find out more about them and work on them. So it's very good from a list perspective, but a lot of the lists are fleshed out with additional information. So if you look at the modern history terms section, you've got here Monica Sellers being stabbed, you've got Sellafield, and you've got the Sharpeville massacre, all rubbing shoulders with one another. It is the sort of section that you can browse and learn things that you particularly weren't expecting to be learning about, whilst also kind of reconfirming other areas and getting pointers for things that you want to dive more deeply into. It can't have, as a book, everything that you need. And the absence of some things in this book are going to be a little bit frustrating to you. This book is rooted in the classic quiz curriculum, the curriculum that served the quiz community well until perhaps the last 10 years or so. And as such, there is a sense that it probably needs a bit of an update and a bit of a refresh and a bit of a rethink. But it is, as it always has been, a phenomenal piece of work. It is a recommended retail price of £45. That is a lot for a book in the modern world, but look at what you're getting. You're getting over 1,000 pages of very densely packed information. It is just something, just a book like no other, a reference like no other. Now, while there is great value in this book for the quizzer, where I think this really comes into its own is if you're a quiz writer. We all know that pressure of thinking, oh, I've got to think of questions against a time pressure and I've got to get stuff done and I don't know where to start, and you keep revisiting the same old questions that you've thought of before. This book is the place to go to give you inspiration. If you think, okay, I want something from world history, there will be something in here that will prompt you for writing a question. If you want to look at sport, if you want ideas for some very different types of questions, from middle names to famous last words to opening lines of novels to highest mountains, it's all in here. For a question writer, this is gold. I think Trevor Montague has delivered a book that remains relevant to the quiz community. I think next time round, I think he would be well advised to connect with some of the more modern quiz competitions to see how the canon is expanding and what he can add to the canon. He talks about a new video game section in here, but actually the video game section is very, very small and it's quite level 1 in terms of the topics by modern standards. So there are areas where this book could be improved, but it's kind of churlish to be too critical of something that is so full of content And it does say it's the A to Z of almost everything, so it does admit it's not perfect. So let's have a look at how this measures up on our scoring criteria. For content, the sheer amount of content in here. I mean, I don't know how many facts there will be on a page, but with 1,200 pages, say there's a 50 facts on a page, that is 50,000 facts that you have at your fingertips. It's just incredible. So it'd be harsh to give it anything less than 20/20. There are gaps though, and I think it would be good to see some of those gaps started to be plugged in the next edition. The format is tried and trusted. It has served Trevor well for 2 decades. And a lot of this information, it's really hard to think how it could be presented better. I know Trevor's done an ebook version of previous publications. Maybe an ebook version of this would just edge the physical version, but then there's something quite great about having that on your bookshelves. It is a hefty tome, and it is reassuring to have it there for when you need it. Format-wise, hard to think how it could be done better, but 18 out of 20, because it is still very much rooted in how it's always been. And on to practicality. Now, I'm giving practicality a 16 out of 20 for the simple reason is this is a really heavy book. The facts are densely packed and the typing is small. Now, I know why the printing is really, really small, because it'd be double the size if you didn't. But that said, it does mean that it's perhaps less accessible to people with sight loss or sight problems, or the physical ability to be hefting around a book like this. You cannot just be taking this around with you if you're sitting on a train journey. It would load you down too much. So for practicality, 16 out of 20. Annoyances wise, well, sometimes it's not easy to find what you're looking for. Initially, it took me quite a while to find the video games content. I was looking for a section, actually it was a subsection within common terms within the computers section. Again, a digital version of this would be much more searchable, and probably the best way to square that particular circle going forward. But 18 out of 20 because the annoyances are minor compared to the fantastic resource that you have in your hands if your eyesight is good enough. And longevity. Well, the problem with anything you put in print, particularly a reference book, is that reference books go out of date, and none more so than this one, which was out of date almost as soon as it was published because of the Queen dying. But that said, there is a reason why I have got former versions of this publication still on my shelf. And that is because this is such a trusted and faithful and reliable book that even though there might be things that run out of date, or there might be the odd error that creeps in, the overall value of this book to a quizzer and a quiz setter is just immense. This might be the most expensive quiz book that you ever buy, but it may well be also that it's one of the most useful quiz books that you ever buy. The trick is finding how you get the most value out of it, because really the sky is the limit with a publication like this. It's All Things Quiz. We recommend this book. We think it is a valuable addition to anybody's library, and if you want to buy a copy, there is a link downstairs in the description. Downstairs, down below in the description. And if you like our reviews and you want to see some more of them, then check out reviews which will be popping up here, and see if there are other books that you would like to get and add to your quiz library.